All right, have a look at your books currently. Pick up one of your books, any subject area, and just flick through it. And as you're flicking through your books, I want you to ask yourself some questions, some honest questions. Is it organized? Does it visually attract your eye? Or is it just a page of notes all looking the same, unorganized, things scrawled in the same color pen in the side? Is there parts of your notes which you can immediately, if I was to say to you, let's say 10 weeks into a course or 10 weeks into term, if I was to say to you, you're going to have a question, you're going to have an exam because I teach science, you're going to have an exam where we're going to be testing all the famous people that we have looked at this term and what they've done. Could you, within 2 minutes, pull every single famous person out of your science textbook, your science notebook, and could you say what they did, what their name was, and what year they did it? Maybe the implications. Could you do that? Would your notes allow you to do that? Would your notes allow you to see if you have improved your learning? So if you were to look back through your notes, is there a visual thing that you can look at and you can say, I didn't know that, but and I now know it? Could you identify that? Could you look at your notes and say, 2 months ago, I didn't know that, but now I do? Or 2 months ago, I didn't know that, oops, I still don't know that, I better relook at it. Or has it been lost into the abyss? Well, your notes should be able to do that. They should be active. They should allow you to ask questions and then make decisions how to improve. If your notes can't do that, they're just a collection of facts, then you're not learning to your best. So let's look at Cornell Notes. All right, here we go. We've got a very scary C happening there, very Halloweenish C, dribble. Now, what are Cornell Notes? Well, Cornell Notes are a note-taking method that was developed by Cornell University. And through a lot of research, they looked at the best way that people like to learn. And generally, they're shown like this. And so what they say is you put the title up here of the lecture, or at school what you're learning about, you put the date, you put your teacher's name or something like that. So since it's university, they would have the lecturer name. But if you're at school, of course, you just have the same teacher, so you don't really need to put your teacher name. Then there's a main space here for your main notes. So you might write in something like this. You might draw a picture. You might have a diagram, like that, a flow diagram. You might have a chemical structure if you're doing science, whatever it might be, okay? Then this column here is to try and highlight and interact with some of those key ideas there. Now, sometimes you could have a question there. So when I'm encouraging students to take notes in class or take notes from my flipped videos, there's their main key notes, but then the questions are linking the two together. So they might say, for example, they might go, here's a question, and that question might be like, they might put a little symbol, a question mark, for example, and they might write their question there. So they might say, well, why did you do this? I'm confused. So when they come back into class, they can look at their notes and go, sir, last night I was confused when I was watching the video. Why did you do this? And straight away, I can help them. You might find that this is very important. So in the lecture or in the class lesson or in the video, they might say, this is really important, this is a key element, you need to remember this. So you can highlight that. Get a highlighter out and highlight a specific color. So you might decide your own color scheme and you might go, red is going to be something that's really important. All right? And so you might highlight, just put a little red line there, and this might be red. Okay, so it's highlighting something that's very, very important. You might just say, well, I'm going to put, we talked about a scientist here, I'm going to put a little symbol that's going to represent a person. So that as the months go on, I just look in my side column so I can go flick, 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 oh, there's a person, flick, 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 there's another person, flick, 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 there's another person. So straight away, I can get a list of people and their dates and the key things just by looking at the symbol, rather than having to flick through pages and pages of line after line after line after line of notes. I might decide to, let's say, maybe do another color, maybe orange. So you could do the same, right, good old traffic lights they call it. Right, so the traffic light means the top light in Australia anyway. The top light is red, means stop. Then we have yellow or amber, which means slow down. And of course, green, which means go. So you could use that color scheme for this. You could use red for things that are causing you a real problem, a real concern, that it's stopping you from learning. So instead of using red here before for important, you could use red for I have no idea about that, I need help. Then you can use yellow for sort of, yeah, I sort of understand it, but I think I need a little bit more clarity. And then you can use green for not a problem at all. So you might choose to write in green or just, you know, shade it in pencil green. So yep, that makes complete sense to me. I'll shade that in green, right? And then something that's red, shade it in red. I need immediate help, right? So that's sort of like a Cornell system that I'm sort of modifying with my students to make it very interactive, putting questions. I might put DEF for a definition. So if you have to know the definition, let's say you're doing chemistry and you need to know the definition of the enthalpy of combustion or the enthalpy of atomization, you know, have a definition down there, highlight it, put a particular term in there. You know, if you have to know how to derive a formula, put the final formula here, or maybe a little F for formula, and then you know in that particular color there's a formula that you have to know, and you might have the formula in a box. So what you're doing is you're making your notes, just like we had before in a previous video, making them colorful. Memory likes color. We're making them interactive and engaging because you can interact with your notes later on. Flick through the book and you've got a column to look at, and very quickly you can pull out bits of information really fast and easy. You're making them interactive because you can identify problems that you need to fix up. And so you flick through your books 2 months and you go, oh, that bit was red. I didn't understand that. Do I understand it now? Yes, I do. Right? So you're showing that you're learning. If you don't understand it now, you better go back and look at it. Okay? This section down the bottom here is a summary section. You could use this same idea here. So overall as a summary, write a summary of the key ideas, and you can classify or evaluate yourself. Overall, I feel like I've got a yellow level of understanding. You know, I might need to look over that, and in my study sessions look over it and use the techniques that we're going to be talking about in these tip sections about how to digest this and how to memorize it and how to use it actively. And I need to re-look at that because it's yellow, it's not quite green. So Cornell Notes are a great way to take notes. Excuse me, great way to take notes there, and I encourage you to try and give this a go rather than the typical note method of just doing line after line, maybe a little subheading. I'm going to be a rebel and use a subheading. Hoo-hoo, right? Go for more than that. Do this, and your notes will become more powerful, more active, more engaging. And it's a good way too, because then if you give your notebook to your friend and you're studying together as a team, they can flick through your notes and they will see all the red bits. So straight away, they know to ask you the red things that are highlighted to see if you learnt them. And if you don't, then you talk about them. And then you can do other techniques which we're going to be talking about. And then you can then teach. You co-teach. So from the red bits, you can co-teach each other, right? That's just one thing which we'll talk about in other tip videos. But that's what Cornell Notes are. And that's how I'm using them with my students. And I'm always encouraging them to try this out and to keep persisting. Remember, to be success, you need to persevere. Hope that makes sense to you. Hope the tip's useful. Give it a go, right? And give it some time to blend into your learning. So it's just like if you were learning a new swing, right? Let's say you play golf again, right? And you're using a new swing. That swing is going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel weird. It's going to feel strange. It's going to feel not right. But anything new feels uncomfortable for a while until you get muscle memory. When you're playing a guitar, playing a piano, it feels weird to try and get that augmented fourth chord or whatever it might be. That stretch is just not happening. The muscles in your hands just can't get that. But the more you practice, the more they get used to it, the muscle memory, and before you know it, you're not even thinking about it. Same with learning. Your brain rewires itself. And go watch the tip about brain plasticity, because your brain is learning new ways to do things. It's going to feel strange. It's going to feel weird, but you're learning. And there's a quote, like once again from Einstein, a quote. He says, if you are doing the same thing and expecting different results, that's the definition of insanity. So if you're studying the same way and you're not achieving very well, and you go, oh, I need to study more, and you study the same way and you just study more of it, you may not be getting the same results, and that's called, well, insane. Try something different, and before you know it, that difference may cause you to go, wow, I've been doing it like that all this time, and this is the way my brain loves it. Anyway, see you in the next tip video. Until then, keep plugging away, because you are smarter than you think, right? And you will improve, all right? Positive mindset. See you in another video.